Welcome back. I've got a Blu Ray update, a bunch of Severin titles I picked up, and some film movement titles, which I'm really getting into film movement. If you're not aware of them, they're an independent distribution company in New York City that focuses on international films. Films that I guess kind of fly under the radar, so to speak. First up from Severin is The Astrologer, which is directed by James Glickenhaus, who is mainly known for his executive producer type activities with Maniac and Frankenhooker. He also directed The Exterminator. He did a lot of 80s stuff. Haven't seen this yet. This has some interviews. It doesn't have a audio commentary. It's supposed to be kind of a psychedelic type deal. I'll check it out and let you know. Next up is a film by Penelope Spheris with Charlie Sheen in The Boys Next Door. I've heard this is pretty troubling stuff. The Boys Next Door get into quite a bit of trouble. I haven't seen it. I'm looking forward to watching it. This does have an audio commentary track, and as you can see, a host of other interviews and special features. Next up, the beloved Jess Franco. Finally got some new titles to come out that I can do on reviews for Franco Fridays. And first up is Night of Open Sex. This is an 80s film that he did, kind of along the lines of softcore porn. I guess it's in between hardcore and softcore. But yeah, I'm going to cover it on Friday, the upcoming Friday, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it. It has Stephen Thrower going on location to look at some locations that were Franco utilized predominantly in his films. And it's got a 30-minute interview with Stephen Thrower talking about the film itself, as well as about a 10-15 minute interview that Franco and his better half, Lena Romay, were in. It's like I guess it's like 10 minutes talking about filmmaking in general. So yeah, it's a great release. Definitely recommend it for Franco fans. Another Franco title, Cries of Pleasure. And again, this has the same format as the other film, which Stephen Thrower doing location stuff, a 30-minute review of the film itself, and then 10 minutes more of Franco and Lena interview. All right, next up is some titles that I picked up. This is from Unearthed Films, and it's A Record of Sweet Murder. I watched it. I loved it. Great film. Highly recommend picking this up. This is just a fantastic serial killer slash. It's shot in a found footage style, which I don't particularly think is effective in most cases, beyond just the gimmickry of it. But this is very effective, and it works perfectly with the film. It's a great example. It's an anomaly, in my opinion, of the found footage style where it works in the setting. Essentially, you've got a killer that's called up an old acquaintance that is now a newspaper reporter, and she and a cameraman go and interview this guy. It's a wild trip. It's a fantastic film, surprisingly effective. Unfortunately, though, this release has no special features. I would have loved to have gotten some interviews with the director. This guy, Koei Shirazashi, I'm not sure what else he's done, but I'm going to research it because this is just a 9 out of 10, a great film. All right, next up is some film movement titles, and I've gotten into film movement after buying The Great Silence with Klaus Kinski, one of the best westerns, top 5 westerns of all time, spaghetti westerns of all time, period. And so I was watching some of the trailers from uh, Film Movement, and there's other titles that are just as good, really appealing, and I jumped out on a limb and bought a few. First up is Hanabi, which I believe is translated as fireworks in English. This is a Kitano film. He directs and plays the lead character. He's a cop that's really kind of in a downward spiral. I mean, he lost his child. His wife is dying, and he had a horrible accident. Not an accident, but just an unfortunate series of events that his partner got shot and killed, and he's dealing with these yakuza guys that are extorting money out of him. It's a beautiful film. It's a mesmerizing film, and there's periods. It's like it's a cross between a yakuza crime film and a drama, but the drama is so realistic and played so beautifully. You could certainly argue that it's more of a drama than it is a yakuza film. It's really about one man's descent into the meaninglessness of life, or he's just tired of life, really. And he's a badass, man. I mean, he doesn't give a fuck if you get in his way. There's a scene where he takes a chopsticks and stabs this fucker in the eye. I mean, he just doesn't give a shit. And you can see over time, as the story evolves, you can understand why. It's a great film. Highly recommend it. These Film Movement titles are expensive, though. They run just under $30. This has an audio commentary, which was excellent, about Kitano and his other films, and this film, of course. And then there's a booklet you get with it. Excellent. Highly recommend it. That's Hanabi. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. That's how you pronounce it. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. So, next up is a Fassbender film, and one I had never seen. I've seen all of Fassbender's films, I thought, until this. And it's a Film Movement title as well, and that's Kamikaze 89. Wow, what a bizarre, psychedelic, futuristic film this is. And it stars Fassbender as a cop who's basically trying to figure out who is trying to bomb this large corporate building that's essentially, it's a kind of a cross between I wasn't quite sure whether it was a for-profit entity or government run, but the bottom line is this it's a George Orwellian kind of society where artistic, expressive, personal freedoms are really kind of shunned. And what this corporation has figured out how to do is take all the artistic talent and lock them up on the 31st floor and let them kind of get that out of their system without actually allowing it to reach the public. It's an interesting concept, an interesting film, bizarre. I mean, you've got Fassbender here. He's wearing this leopard skin outfit. I mean, he's got a leopard skin lined car. You've got cross-dressing assassins in this thing. I mean, it's just a bizarre. I guess it's supposed to be set in the future, but it's just a kind of an acid trip, if you will. Wolf Grimm directed this, and on this Blu-ray is a really interesting documentary, about an hour and 15 minutes, 75 minutes of Wolf's fight with cancer, which he ultimately lost. But it's an interesting documentary. I was gonna cover this on a Fassbender Friday, but pretty much covered it here. So yeah, I would say if you are a Fassbender fan, you need to see this, because watching Rainer Fassbender stumble around kind of as a drunken cop, a coked up cop, it was interesting. This film was shot maybe within a year, certainly within a year of when he died. And watching him in this film, I mean, it's. I don't think he was acting. I think he was coked up and drugged up most of the film, but he's still fascinating to watch, man. He just every minute he's on the screen is just film. It just grabs your attention. You can't not look at it. Highly recommend Kamikaze '89. And then finally, the much anticipated, at least for me anyway, much anticipated Al Adamson box. Yep, I finally pre-ordered this thing in March 9th, and I'm just now getting it. You've got 31 films. It's a huge booklet, and it's laid out kind of like this is how it's laid out. I really can't wait to see. What I really bought this for was kind of Sam Sherman's partner. Does a lot of commentaries for these films, and I've heard most of them, but I want to check out the ones. I hope there's others on here that haven't been previously released, because I think that Sam Sherman's audio commentaries are priceless, or just gold. Particularly if you're interested in independent filmmaking, low-budget independent filmmaking, along the lines of Herschel Gordon Lewis and that type of thing. But it's a nice layout. I like the fact that it's kind of compact and smaller than the Herschel Gordon Lewis breakfast box. It's I like the compact nature of this. Interesting sidebar is that one of the discs, something's wrong with them. I mean, before I'd even kind of busted into this thing, I got a replacement disc in the mail with a letter saying that one of the discs, which I guess it's Blazing Stewardesses, it's the Stewardesses double feature. I guess there's something wrong with the original disc, so nice of them to be proactive on that. All right, that's going to do it for my Blu-ray update, and I appreciate you watching.